All right, this problem says we have to evaluate the function at the indicated values, and if an answer is undefined, enter undefined. We're given that the function is 5x squared plus 3x minus 10, and we have to find f of 0, f of 2, f of negative 2, f of radical 2, f of x plus 1, and also f of negative x. So let's do the first one, f of 0. And if we plug something into the function f of x, we see that we have to square that value, multiply it by 5, multiply it by 3, and subtract 10, and then combine like terms. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to write 5 times 0 squared plus 3 times 0 minus 10. And we'll evaluate this. Now 5 times 0 squared will simply be 0. 3 times 0 will also be 0. And what we're going to be left with is negative 10. Okay, so that's our first one. Let's do the second one here, f of 2. And we're going to do the same thing that we did with 0, plug in 2. So 5 times 2 squared plus 3 times 2 and minus 10. Now we have to make sure we follow order of operations. So 2 squared is 4, and we're going to have 5 times 4 plus 3 times 2 is 6 and minus 10. And we need to evaluate this. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 plus 6 is 26, and 26 minus 10 is 16. Okay, next up, we're going to do f of negative 2. And we're still going to do the same thing that we've been doing. So we're going to write 5 times negative 2 squared plus 3 times negative 2 minus 10. Okay, once again, order of operations. Now, negative 2 squared is going to be the same as positive 2 squared, so our first term is still going to come from 5 times 4. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6, and we still have the negative 10. So 5 times 4 is 20. 20 minus 6 is 14, and 14 minus 10 is positive 4. Okay, next, let's do f of radical 2. And we're going to still do exactly the same thing. I'm going to stick a radical 2 in our parentheses here. So 5 times radical 2 squared plus 3 times radical 2, and then minus 10 equals. Now, order of operations still, so we have to square radical 2. If you square a radical, you get these two functions are inverses of each other, so basically the squared and the square root are going to cancel each other out, and I'm going to be left with a 2, so I'm going to have 5 times 2 plus 3 times radical 2 is multiplied just as if this were a variable, so 3 times radical 2 is just 3 radical 2, and then minus 10. Now, we have to do 5 times 2, which is 10, and we're going to have a positive 10 and a negative 10, so these two actually add together to become 0, and what we're left with is 3 root 2. Next up, we have f of x plus 1. So let's write f of x plus 1 squared. Whoops, f of x plus 1. Got a little bit ahead of myself there. Now, we're still going to do the same thing. So 5 times x plus 1 squared plus 3 times x plus 1 and then minus 10. Now, this time we are squaring a binomial. So when you square a binomial, we're going to actually use this expansion here. Here's a binomial, and recall that if you square a plus b, you square the first term, you have 2 times the first term times the second term for your middle term, and for the last term you wind up with b squared. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to have 5 on the outside of the parentheses times x squared plus 2 times x times 1 plus 1 squared. Close the parentheses. So this is our expansion here, our binomial expansion. With this 3, what we're going to do is distribute, actually. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 1 is 3, and then minus 10. We are now going to distribute the 5 to each term, and if we do that, we're going to wind up with 5x squared plus 5 times 2 times x times 1 is 10x, plus 5 times 1 squared is just 5, plus 3x, and we're going to go ahead here and combine these two like terms, so 3 minus 10 is negative 7. And our final step will be to combine all the like terms. So 5x squared will stand alone. Positive 10x and positive 3x is positive 13x. And 5 minus 7 is negative 2. So that would be our answer for f of x plus 1. All right, and last, we have f of negative x. And what this means is that wherever we see an x in the function, we are going to replace it with a negative x. However, you have to make sure that you use parentheses. So I'm going to write 5, parentheses, negative x. Close the parentheses. We're going to square that. Plus 3, parentheses, negative x. Close the parentheses. And, of course, minus 10. Now, let's go ahead and square the negative x. When you square negative x, you get positive x squared. So I'm going to have 5x squared. 3 times negative x is negative 3x, and negative 10. And that will be the answer for f of negative x. So our final answers are negative 10, 16, 4, 3 radical 2. I couldn't fit this into the box, so that solution is 5x squared plus 13x minus 2, and f of negative x is 5x squared minus 3x minus 10.